Hey guys, Problem1701, and today we're going to talk about a fan theory that a friend of mine has for the 10th planet. And I absolutely love the fan theory. It is most assuredly part of my hand canon now. Her theory basically breaks down to the Doctor changed the events of history when he shows up in the events of the 10th planet. And that originally that scenario didn't end as well for Earth. Now, naturally, I don't think Earth was destroyed because the Doctor goes to the future. Even the first Doctor goes to the future before that, and Dalek invasion of Earth and stuff. So obviously, Earth wasn't destroyed. But perhaps somehow, even though Earth came out of that situation winning, they didn't come out completely unscathed. Somehow there was fallout. There was things that didn't go well. Maybe a large part of the population died. Somehow the events of the 10th planet still ended badly for humanity, where even though they won, it was not a good victory. And that the first Doctor showing up, he altered the events, so where Earth came out of that situation much better. It would explain why he knows some of the things that are happening, like how he knows that the object approaching is a planet, the way he draws it, that he knows visitors will be coming. Now, he doesn't seem to know they're Cybermen. He seems surprised by that, so he might not be super familiar with the events. It could just be a footnote in history he happened to know about without knowing all the details of it. I really like this, though. This relates, I think this could be one of the first times where the first Doctor really realizes he can make an impact. Because as my friend theorizes, she always believes that the first Doctor being so grumpy, especially early in his run, is because he's someone who started out really hopeful and wanting to make a difference and wanting not just to leave, but the whole good versus evil thing. Why does good triumph? He really went out trying to make history better. But because he was so young and inexperienced, he failed at it. He wasn't good at it. Maybe he just made things worse accidentally because of unintended consequences. But somehow as he got older, and he failed at making things better more and more, or failed to make an impact at all more and more, it made him more bitter and grumpy, to where that's the way he is when we first see him in An Unearthly Child. Because we know the Doctor can get kind of grumpy when he's either alone or when he doesn't have other, like, humans. One of the reasons he might like humans to kind of keep him up. Like Amy says, you shouldn't travel alone for too long, even though he still has Susan with him, but he doesn't have other people besides Susan with him, really, that we see. And that could be why he's become grumpy the way he is. I really love his speech in the Aztecs. I have not seen the Aztecs, but I have seen this one scene from the Aztecs when he's talking to Barbara. And he gives her that bit about, you can't change history, not one line. Don't you dare, not one line. Believe me, I know. I forget what he actually says. I can't remember if he says, I know, or I've tried. He says something like that. It's the way he says it, though. It's like, you can't change history, not one line. Believe me, I know. He says that, the way Hartnell delivers that line is so good and so impactful, because it gives the impression of someone who knows from experience. The way he says that, believe me, I tried, or believe me, I know. Again, I haven't seen the story, but just seeing that scene makes me want to watch the Aztecs. Like, I really want to see the Aztecs now, just because of that scene. It's that good. That's the one that told me, gotta watch the Aztecs sometime soon. Because that speaks to me of someone who tried to make things better, who tried to do the right thing. Somehow it didn't work out, and he has just learned the hard way, up to at least for what he thinks at that time, that you can't change history. And that's why the first Doctor is the way he is, and being with Ian and Barbara and later other companions is what kind of softens him back up. Much like even in the modern series, people traveling with people is what keeps him from becoming dark. So I think that kind of gets him back to his old self of being kind of nicer, like he probably was when he was younger. And then when you tie that in with the events of Twice Upon a Time, of him seeing the kind of difference that he can make, and learning what it's like to be a Doctor of War, and seeing the kind of, helping out people, and that he was wrong about changing history and wrong about being able to save things. I think even though he probably doesn't remember the events of Twice Upon a Time, because the previous Doctors never are supposed to remember that, I think some part of it sticks in his mind, which would perfectly explain why, when he regenerates into Troughton, Troughton is very much the one who likes to help people, to get involved, to make a difference. Troughton does, we have to admit, Troughton does tend to get involved. You can say that again. And he does. Troughton is very much the guy who, with the first Doctor, a lot of times when he gets involved, it's because he's simply curious. It's his curiosity. With Troughton and forward, it's more in them wanting to make a difference. Sometimes something catches his interest and he wants to check it out, but usually he's there because he wants to help. We see this even in Power of the Daleks. He knows something's up because he sees the one guy get murdered, so he wants to find out what's going on to help. When he sees the Daleks, he knows they can't leave, they have to stay and help. And I think it's the events from Twice Upon a Time still lingering in the subconscious. Plus, I think, as my friend thinks, this is her theory, full credit, I think that the first Doctor altered the events of the 10th planet for the better. And that he probably remembers. That's where he learns, holy crap, I can make a difference. I can save people. Earth came out of this much better than they originally did in the history books. Maybe I should keep doing this. And the fact he remembers that event, that's why Troughton is so different and why Troughton is so much more inclined to help people. We see this in the moon base when, they all want to leave and he's like, we can't leave, Jamie. There's evil here. That bit when he says that, I don't think he says it to Jamie, whoever it is, Polly. I think he says it to Polly. We can't leave. And he says that part where he says we can't leave. He says it in this kind of resigned tone. It's kind of weary almost tone. Because he probably does want to leave, but he can't leave because he knows there's evil going on here and he has to stop it. It's the way he says that. We can't leave. There's evil here. Not just bad, evil here. And that's when he does his famous speech, though. There are some corners of the universe which have bred the most terrible things, things which act against everything that we believe in. They must be fought. They must be fought. And again, Moonbase is very early in Troughton's run. Like this fifth story, right in there. Yeah, I think that speech really solidifies that theory. That theory is very much headcanon to me now. That the second Doctor is very much the person who's there to help. He likes to help and save people when he can. I mean, not only that speech in the moon base and his actions in the moon base prove that he's trying to make things better. Look at the War Games when he has to choose between sending all the people home or not, because he knows the only way to get all those people back to their own times in the War Games is to call in the Time Lords. And the first Doctor, especially in the early days, might have just been out of there. But not the second Doctor, because the second Doctor knows he can make things better. The man who makes things better. He knows he can. And that's why he's potentially, he doesn't know if he'll get away or not, but he risks it. He calls in the Time Lords. Even if it cost him his own freedom, he does the right thing. And I lay that completely on the events of the 10th planet with the events of Twice Upon a Time on his conscious and subconscious level. I do agree, though. Bottom line is, I do think that's a good theory that the events of the 10th planet originally happened differently, and that if Earth won, it was at a heavy cost, and then Hartnell showing up, she changed history to where Earth came out of it in way better shape because of his influence, and that's where the first Doctor really learns he can make a difference. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of Hartnell. I know there's other stories where he's kind of the hero, but I really think this is the one that can solidify why Troughton is so different and so much more of a hero and of the saving the day, and I'm going to interfere, I'm going to do the right thing. And we see that with all of the future Doctors, because so many of the Doctors after Troughton borrow, I won't say borrow from Troughton, but you can see a lot of Troughton in other Doctors. A lot of people will say that all of the Doctors that came later borrow less from Hartnell and borrow more from Troughton. Troughton is kind of the template that a lot of other Doctors follow. There's a lot of Troughton, I think, even in Tom Baker, and I love Tom Baker, and in David Tennant, and in Matt Smith, and a lot of the others. And I think it could be because that was the turning point where he learned just how effective he could be. Because again, that line from the Aztecs really comes across to me of someone who tried to make a difference and it didn't work out. And the way Hartnell delivers that line in the Aztecs of, I know, believe me, I know, really solidifies that he's almost having a moment of looking back and being sad he couldn't do more. So that's my friend's theory. Alexa, that's her name. I didn't mention her name. I really think it's a good theory. I firmly subscribe to it. She was actually over the other day, and we were talking about it again. And I just wanted to make a video on that and see what you guys thought about it. Comment down below and let me know whether you think that's a pretty neat theory. Whether or not you find it valid or not, different or irrelevant. I'm just curious if you think it's a neat theory. So comment down below and discuss. I'm always curious to hear your feedback and hear what you think. And if you have any theories about 10th Planet and Twice Upon a Time and how that may have influenced things, I'd love to hear those as well. Other things to do: click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications so you never miss out on a new video. I also have a Patreon if you would like to contribute to that. There's a link to that down below if you'd like to become one of my patrons. I do have a entry level that's just $2 a month, just $2 a month. If you would like to support what I do and help with all the import fees, because I do live in the States, if my dialect didn't give it away. Most importantly though, stay safe out there, and thank you for watching.